Alright, so in this lecture we're going to create a little bit more advanced custom animation using the animate function, just to get to know it a little better, and that you also learn how you can animate multiple CSS properties at once. So let's go ahead and do that for the blue box first. So we're going to call animate, and then the first parameter again is our JavaScript object, which will define all the CSS properties and the values you want them to have. And I'm going to set this to 1 second. So first of all, let's go ahead again and use margin left and set that to 200 pixels. So that's what we had before. And then also I want to go ahead and set the opacity to 0. Now essentially, if you only were to use this, so if we comment out the margin left and only set the opacity to 0, then you have to find your own fade to 0. So when I go ahead and just do that, the blue box disappears. But with custom animations, you're free to add any other properties as well. So let's go ahead and make it move to the right while also reducing the opacity. So that's basically going to make it fade out while moving to the right. Now let's also go ahead and just play around with this a bit. So we're going to set the height, the colon must be outside, to 50 pixels. So we want it to shrink, and the width also should go down to 50 pixels. So once you do that, you're going to have it fading out to the right while also shrinking in size. Now, what I don't like about this at the moment is that it basically goes to the top. So let's also say that the margin top should be 25 pixels at the end. So that way it should stay around at the center like that. So that's a nice custom animation and not too hard to create using jQuery. You just add any CSS properties you want here, and then jQuery is going to go ahead and modify each of them over the course of 1 second in this case, and just gradually update all the values for these properties. Now just a quick thing I want to mention for this JavaScript object here, you can also get rid of the string here, but then you have to capitalize something like margin left. So you can also do it like this. You can, instead of using strings, use a single identifier, but then you can't use minus here because that's not correct JavaScript syntax. And that will also work fine. So you're still going to have the same animation here. And of course, for properties like width and height, where there's not really anything to capitalize in between. So when there are no dashes in between, you can also just leave the string out without changing anything. So those are just 2 different ways to do it, and you can decide which one of those you prefer for your coding. Alright, so that's how easy it is to create your own custom animations using jQuery. Now, as your next mini challenge, I would like you to select all the paragraphs in the HTML document and then animate their font size to increase to 20 pixels over the course of 1 second. So I'll give you a minute to do that, and you can pause the video right here. Alright, so let's go ahead and solve this mini challenge. So you're going to select all the paragraphs in the document. Then again, you want your own custom animation in this case. And the property you want to animate is font size. So you could do it like this, to 20 pixels over the course of 1 second. Or you could use the string notation, adding a minus here, and do it like this, whichever way you prefer. So let's go ahead and save this and then take a look at the browser. Alright, so now it's not doing anything anymore. So I made some mistake. I didn't add a string here. So you have to be careful, as I mentioned, to use strings. Now when we go back, you can see that the previous animation with the blue box is still playing, of course. And also the font size of the paragraph text gets increased to 20 pixels. Alright, great. So I think you have a good understanding of how to create your own custom animations in jQuery now. So of course you can play around with other attributes. What I did mention shortly already is that you can't use something like color. So if we were to try to change the color to white over the course of the animation, that's not going to do anything because jQuery is not clever enough to transition between the colors correctly. So you can't use colors for these custom animations, but you can use all properties that, for example, use some kind of pixel value or like opacity, just some kind of numeric value. And those are the things that jQuery can easily transition between. Alright, so play around with this a little more, try out the different syntaxes you can use here with strings or using the capitalization like this, and also try to use different CSS properties and see if you can animate them. Alright, thanks for watching this video, and I look forward to seeing you again in the next lecture.